Okay, I'm doing a long video about this, but I wanted to just jump on this, just do a really quick short video. And it's the difference in the market that we're seeing. And, right now everybody's talking about recession. They're talking about real estate and is the housing market going to crash and what's going on. And here's what we're seeing. Right now we're seeing escalated prices, not values. We're seeing escalated prices. We're seeing people that are saying, well, if I can get X, if I can get 500,000, I'll sell it. Well, it's kind of unrealistic now because that was months ago. Now there's still going to be markets if you're in certain markets like out in California or maybe Portland, Oregon. I've got friends in Seattle. I've got everywhere, you name it, in this industry selling real estate, and there's still hot pockets and hot markets. But the average, bedroom community, if you will, like Nashville and Atlanta and those markets are they're still pretty hot markets. But go with me here. We're not seeing these multiple offers, these people offering $100,000 over list price and all of that. Unfortunately, when you go to list your property, you're looking at numbers. And so when a property is listed for sale and a buyer comes along and buys it, majority of the time they get a mortgage on the property, especially if it's under $1 million. And if it's under $1 million and they get a mortgage on the property, then it has to be appraised. And if they get the home appraised, the home has to appraise. So the bank is looking out for the benefit of the buyer as well as themselves to make sure the value is there on the property. So the buyer pays for $400 for the appraisal. The appraiser's called, he goes out, she goes out. They appraise the property and say, here's what it's worth. Here's the big difference. All of those sold properties that are listed for sale, and here's a big aha. So real estate appraisers use the MLS. The MLS is the realtor database. That's the database that we use in all of our areas, all across the country, United States, and all these cities, where we list a property, we put it in this central database, the multiple listing service, and then from there it's syndicated out on Zillow and Realtor.com. But that's what real estate appraisers use to determine what are the past sales. And most real estate appraisers, they'll go back 3 to 6 months to look at sold properties. They'll also look at comparable bedrooms, baths, square footage, and that sort of thing. They're looking at houses in the neighborhood to try to find the most comparable properties. But here's what we're running into today. Today we're running into, and we've seen this here in the New Orleans area during Hurricane Katrina, where people paid a lot of cash for homes. They paid over value. And so you've had people pay over value. Now you have homes that are appraised, and it's not so much they got appraised over value. You had buyers buying these homes and they paid more than the value of the home. So think about that. The house is only worth what a buyer's willing to pay for it, but it's also only worth what a seller's willing to sell it for. So if you have a buyer willing to pay it and a seller willing to pay it, then that's the value, right? Well, that's what gets documented in the MLS, and that's what appraisers go off of. So for example, if you have a house that's listed for $325,000 and you get multiple offers on that property and it now sells for $350,000, $375,000, that's a documented closed sale that a buyer paid for that property. The difference now is that's when the rate was 3.5%, 3.25%, 4%. Now that same property, you're looking at sales back from March. I'm shooting this video here, we're 15th, 16th of August. That was back in March, February, October of last year, August of last year. Now we're running into this market where the rates are 5.75%, 5.5%. They're 2 percentage points higher. So that same buyer that actually could afford $400, now they can only afford $330. So you see how it's really caused, the interest rates increasing has really caused a slowdown, if you will, of the market. So you really have to be on point with price. I'm just letting anyone know, if you're out there around the country, doesn't matter where you're at, where you're watching this from, this is like, public service announcement. Look at the comparable properties and you can see that those homes have sold, they did sell. But you can also make sure that you have a professional, you have someone that will sit with you, a real estate broker that will sit with you, that will show you the comparable data in real time on a computer in your home after they've looked around at your property, so you can determine the best possible price for your home based on those comparable properties. So you can look at the inside of those homes, and most importantly, at the very bottom, you can see, was the property purchased for cash and you can see what it was listed for, and you can see what it sold for. And if a house sold for more than what it was listed for, then rest assured they had multiple offers on that property. And we're just not in that market right now. So it's not to say doom and gloom. Will we see this huge influx of the sky's falling with real estate? No, and I'm going to do a long video on that, and it's for many reasons. The supply, quite simply, the supply is lower than it's been in 40 years for homes. You have the desire to have a home, own a home, and more millennials buying homes. All of this data I'm going to share with you in a YouTube video in the next couple of days. You also have foreclosures. We haven't had foreclosures in the last 2.5 years. Right now I'm in Metro New Orleans area. We have a total of across 9 parishes. That's equivalent to a county if you're not in the state of Louisiana. 9 parishes, there's only 46 foreclosures. Normally there would be hundreds, close to 1,000 foreclosures across 9 different parishes in all price ranges. There's 46 a total. So we're going to see in the coming months, as we roll into spring of 2023, we're going to see more people, lose their homes, unfortunately, because I can tell you the stories of me short selling properties and going into people's houses and listing their homes and selling their homes. The good thing about the market is, you have a foreclosure and you have a short sale. And a short sale is when the property owner still owns that property and they put the home on the market. They get an offer on the property. They still own it. They can still sell it. They put that home on the market to sell it. They get a contract on it, and then they go to the bank. Now, keep in mind, the banks, unfortunately, they don't want to deal with the homeowner, as crazy as it may sound, because they have a very strict and stringent process and a series of events that have to take place for them to even consider taking less for the offer. They'll deal with a reputable, educated, experienced, certified, CDPE, what they call certified distressed property expert. They'll deal with one of those because they know the process that needs to go through and what they need to do in that process to get that house closed. But it's really quite simply, you put the house on the market, you get an offer on it, you negotiate with the bank and say, hey, would you take this? And if the bank will take it, then they will. And then it's a posted sale. The good news about that is there's a lot of people out there. If you're watching this or know someone, please share it. Let them know that more than likely they have value in their property and they probably owe more. They probably owe less and can make more on the sale. So in other words, you would avoid a short sale. You want to avoid a short sale at all costs. And the biggest question people ask me is like, how does the short sale affect your credit? Well, it affects your credit mainly because of this. Typically when you short sell a property, it'll say paid as agreed and satisfied or paid off but what really hurts your credit is you haven't paid payments. So you haven't paid your mortgage payments in 30, 60, 90. I mean, believe you me, that back in 2009, 10, 11, I was listing properties and selling those homes, and some people had not paid a mortgage in 2.5 years. True story. So that's the difference. But today it's a little bit different. We've seen such a great escalation of home values over the last 2 years, year and a half, 2 years, where people have equity in their homes. It's just that simple. So you can put your house on the market, sell it, avoid a short sale, put cash in your pocket, and then go rent something temporarily. And not to sound like rainbows and butterflies, but I'm always real positive. But listen, this too shall pass if you're going through a negative situation or circumstance right now in your life. So don't let that bother you. If you got to rent for a year or two, it's okay. I personally have gone through a lot of hardship. People don't realize that, but I've gone through a lot of that stuff. That's why I've been able to help people so easily, because believe you me, I've had a short sell a home. I went through the whole process. People get divorced, people die, people lose jobs, people have illnesses in families, people have illnesses with themselves, people have children. I've heard all the stories, and believe you me, it happens. It really does. But at the end of the day, I always look at the circumstance that I'm going through. How can I use this as a tool to help other people? Now, as far as a foreclosure, we're going to see more foreclosures come to the market simply because the banks have not foreclosed. There was a moratorium on that. They didn't foreclose on houses. They're sitting on, across the country, tens of thousands of homes that they have literally taken back. You can ride by sometimes and you'll see a house and it will look kind of desolate or it will look empty. Maybe there's a piece of white paper, in the window. That's a foreclosure. We're going to see more of those come in the market. Will we see this huge crash in the housing market? I don't think so. It's just my opinion. I've been doing this for 26 years and I still actively broker, list, and sell real estate. If you needed to list your house, I mean, I can come out and list your home if you're in the metro New Orleans area. And if you're anywhere across the country, Lord, like I mentioned to you, I have friends everywhere that can help you in the process of listing, selling your property, or help you find a home. So that's the gist of it. That's where we're seeing the market. I'm going to do another video on it that's going to show a lot more details. But at the end of the day, we have more people buying, less homes on the market. The interest rates are still phenomenally low at 5.25%. We will see more foreclosures come to the market. There's less builds, so there's still not as many, home builders building houses as there were literally back, because a lot of people are comparing this to what happened in '08, and it's totally different in '08. So let me go with you on 2006 and 7 and 8. And this will be a really quick, interesting story. There's a thing called straw buyers. I don't know if you've ever heard of a straw buyer, but a straw buyer, and you can Google this. Not right now. Let me finish this story. Good stuff. But go with me here. A straw buyer is a fictitious person. A straw buyer doesn't exist. And that's what we've seen around the country, but you don't hear about that. You don't hear about this in the news. You don't hear about it on social media. And that's why I love being able to sit here with my experience and to be able to share this information with consumers. And I love the feedback. They're like, thank you, Wayne, for sharing me, with this information. And listen, you can validate it. You can do your own research. But there was people all across the country dealing and making up what they call straw buyers. I was in Nashville, Tennessee at the time, and I literally had the FBI come to my office, and I had closing attorneys come to my office, and you know what they wanted to know? They want to know, do you have any recollection? Do you have anything going on whatsoever? Is there any person that you know of that didn't exist but bought a house? And I never had that happen, but I can tell you, it happened in Nashville, Tennessee. It happened in cities, in every major city. And this is what they were doing. You had a closing attorney, title company, closing attorney. You had a real estate appraiser. You had a home builder, and you had a mortgage company. A lot of these people are still sitting in prison right now to this day. Because what they would do is they would make up a fictitious person that didn't exist. But that person would have a social security number, so they said, a driver's license number, so they said, fill out an application, so they said. All of this stuff was made up. So here's what would happen. And a home builder. So you had a home builder, appraiser, you had a title company, you had a mortgage company. So what they would do is a builder would build a house, the appraiser, and listen, there's good people out there, but unfortunately, there's bad people too, and it never fails. As soon as the market is really lucrative and it's going really fast, that's when these people, it comes easy for them, I guess, to be a crook. So this is what they were doing. They would literally make up all this fictitious information. The home builder would build a house. The appraiser would appraise it anywhere from $100,000 to $150,000 more. The home builder would build it. The mortgage company would fund the loan with a fictitious person. The title company would close it. And yeah, the builder would pay off his loan. Typically, he's making 20%. And then it was the price was escalated. So think about this. This happened all around the country. No one's talking about it, but it's fact that they would appraise property for $100,000 to $200,000 more than that home is worth. It was just a bullshit appraisal. You with me? And so these people would take and split the cash. They would split the money. It was a big deal. You can type in FBI, straw buyers, white collar crime. It was all across the country. Now, how does that hurt homeowners and how does that hurt the housing market? Well, in Nashville, Tennessee, there was a lot of homes when I was selling real estate in Nashville, Tennessee, that you would ride past and that home was never put on the market. Or perhaps some of them were put on the market, but they were put on the market and sold very quickly. Well, if they sold quickly, then now all of a sudden you have a comparable property in the MLS that's appraised and sold for $100,000 more. So now all of a sudden, when you go to sell your house in your neighborhood and that home got sold, but that buyer did not exist, that pushed up the home value, your home value. And you're thinking, well, that's great. Well, next thing you know, this was when a time back in 2006 and 7, 5, 6, 7, into 8, where you had all these people. So not only did you have made up fictitious straw buyers, coupled with that, the restrictions were much, much lower than they are today to lend somebody money, a loan. They had what they call BC lenders. So they had A lenders where you had to have A credit and you had to be job history and all this, and then they had BC lenders. Well, the BC lenders were anybody that, if you could pretty much fog a mirror, they would give you a loan. And they called these loans, they called them ninja loans. No income, no job, no asset. So in other words, you didn't have any money, didn't have a job, but you had credit. Well, they would literally give you a loan. You could buy some of these houses with no money out of pocket. And the rates were still pretty good at the time. But unfortunately, just because the rates were good and that person had good credit, they were not verifying. Like, that person would put money down on a property, but they would, and had good credit, but they wouldn't verify income, they wouldn't verify job, there was none of that. So that's why we had a huge, big influx. And then gas prices hit the roof and everything started getting more expensive. And then next thing you know, we just had this hellacious crash. Of course, you had mortgage-backed securities and all of that, and they were buying, so the money was flowing and good. We're in a different time right now, totally different. And I know it's really complex and you're thinking, geez alive, what the hell is he talking about? But will the value stay there? I do. Will we see a housing crash? I don't. I really don't. I think we're seeing a correction because we still have homeowners that are listing their property and thinking, well, we can still keep gaining 15, 17%, and that's just not going to happen. And none of us really want it to happen, because what goes up always comes down. But what I mean by that is the value is there, but we're not going to see these huge amounts of appreciation. I mean, in a healthy market, if you can see 3 to 5% home value appreciation per year, that's a good, healthy market. So listen, this is just my opinion. I really appreciate you watching. If there's anything I can ever do, reach out to me. I'll put a link below. If you're in a market anywhere around the country, that's what we do. We connect buyers and sellers, and we connect homeowners with agents and mortgage lenders and that sort of thing. And we also list and sell hundreds of properties right here in the Metro New Orleans area. So if you're ever in New Orleans, look us up. Let me know how we can help. Call, text, email. We put our numbers up here. Message us. We're really easy to get a hold of. My name is Wayne Turner. Website's wayneturner.com. The phone number, 985-626-1313. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your day.